So I've spoken enough about Limbo Dapp now that you have a nice overview of how it works. It's ownable because Morgoth owns it. And so its ultimate fate is up to Morgoth, whether it gets replaced and so on. We need to know a bunch of things, like the location of Limbo, Flan, Eye, and so on. We have a proposal logic that you can go through, and the asset clout. So I mentioned that you can either earn fate, which is the voting points. You can either earn it by staking Eye, or you can stake an Eye-based asset. And the asset clout struct is going to help us calculate that. There's another dynamic I didn't mention. Well, I hinted at, which was that you earn quadratically. So if you stake 10 Eye, you earn the square root of 10 fate. If you I'm giving terrible examples. Okay, you stake 4 Eye, you'll earn 2 fate per whatever time period. If you stake 100 Eye, you'll only earn 10 fate per period. So the power of whales is dampened, except if you burn your Eye, then you get a ton of fate. You get like 10, I think it's 10 times the amount of fate that you burnt in Eye, and there's no quadratic dampening. So that has been put in place so that good-intentioned whales who are willing to sacrifice Eye have the power to veto terrible proposals. You know, whenever you discuss governance, you sometimes say, oh, if only there was like a benign dictator to just put a stop to this or that. This is the like benign dictator mechanism. But of course it comes at a big cost, so the dictator has to signal that they really are benign by burning their own Eye. Then there's some standard logic, there's seeding. There's the function I mentioned about how you can set a redeem rate, or sorry, rather an exchange rate for fate to Flan, so that you can burn your fate and earn Flan. So that's like your rage quit equivalent. Make proposal is actually something that can only be called by the proposal factory, so this isn't a user-facing thing. And then there's voting. So voting has its own logic. Basically, you as a fate holder will vote on a proposal, and you will specify a negative or positive fate. If it's positive, it means yes. If it's negative, it means no. But the absolute value is deducted from you nonetheless. And then there's just a bit of logic. I can't remember who the user was. I think if I think about it long enough, I'll get it. But one of the users on Telegram, I think, mentioned that for swing votes, right at the at the last minute, you know, if a vote is yes, and then suddenly in the last few blocks someone smacks it into no, we should extend the voting period. That was a good suggestion. So we've got a bit of logic around that. And then execute current proposal basically says that if a proposal has succeeded, push it, execute it, make it do what it says it's going to do. The only other complexity of this Limbo Dapp is to set all of the assets that can be staked that can earn fate. So there's strategies around this. If it's I, then it's simply the square root of I, and that's it. But if it's an ILP token, what we do is we take the square root of the I balance of the LP token, and we multiply it by 2, because remember that for an LP token, when you supply I to it, you've also got to supply an accompanying other token of equal value. So you don't want to penalize holders of I LP tokens for not holding pure I. Instead, you want to equalize the rewards so that it's like they own, if they own an LP token that has 10 I, it's like they own 20 I, because they had to have supplied 10 I worth of like ETH or whatever on the other side of that LP token. So we just are trying to not penalize LP token holders of I, because those LP tokens add value to the ecosystem. The burn asset one, so that's when I mentioned the whale powers. So, oh, there we go, it's 20. The factor is 20. So when you are worried about an impending proposal decision, you can burn your eye. You get 20 times what you burnt in Fate. So that turns you from a whale of eye into a super whale of Fate. So it means you don't have to be like the biggest whale of all to swing a vote. But it does mean you will lose that eye, so you are signaling that you are a benign dictator, and I think the community can appreciate that. Okay. It's not just Limbo that will be minting Flan. In the future we'll have additional dApps that will be able to mint Flan, such as Bonfire. We want to get around to minting power to those contracts, so we can do that here. That's just a configuration thing, and that's just when we shut down the DAO. Some calculations, seed, yeah. So that's pretty much Limbo DAO. Proposal Factory. Okay, so we have the abstract contract proposal. It's got a bunch of plumbing logic. So basically, you extend this contract and you implement this execute virtual function, and in it, that's where you do your stuff, do whatever. And then Limbo will make sure that when this contract is called, that execute function is invoked. So it's, the standard command pattern from traditional programming languages. Proposal Factory then handles the gatekeeping and logic of which proposals can be added to Limbo. You can only have one proposal at a time. I did that to keep it simple. I know that's a bit of a constraint, but I mean, when you're building a DAO from scratch, when you can go for the simple option, you really should. So there's a whitelisting process. So whether a proposal can even be voted on or lodged at all has to pass through a whitelisting process, which is ultimately controlled by Morgoth DAO. So we don't want like really dodgy proposals being lodged. However, this whitelisting process isn't about whether we agree with the proposal or not. It's just about whether we agree that this is a legitimate proposal and not just some attempt to wreck everything. So hopefully that won't become an area of controversy. Where am I? Why did I jump? I jumped around. There we are. So if you have enough Fate, you call the lodge proposal, which will then check if it's whitelisted, and if it is whitelisted, it will then through Limbo DAO lodge that proposal for voting, if it can be lodged. In other words, if there isn't one being voted on at the moment. You could always write a secondary queuing contract to manage a queue of proposals. So this really isn't a deal breaker that we can only lodge one proposal at a time. And then the final thing is we just have a bunch of proposal examples. So this isn't a comprehensive list. This is just things that we do need right now. So like for instance, the update multiple soul config proposal. In other words, when we want to list like 10 new tokens on Limbo, we'll call this proposal, and when it's voted yes, we'll say to the community, okay, or maybe the community will say to us, whatever. We'll say in discursive way, hey, let's list sushi of a bunch of these LP tokens and whatever, staked balancer, and we'll come up with a list of like 20 tokens or whatever. We'll then put together, or we'll calibrate a multiple soul config proposal. This one I've highlighted here. And then if it's voted yes, all of those tokens along with their parameters will be listed at once on Limbo. And then so now that I'm thinking about it, I would just check. I haven't verified this on the spot, but if you're an auditor, can you just check if a proposal reverts for some reason, like for instance out of gas error. So for instance, if we list too many tokens and parameters and we just run out of gas in the for loop, if that happens, does Limbo DAO end up in a stuck state? I'll go and review that myself, but I just want to put that out there in the meantime. So if you're looking for an easy bounty, go and investigate that. Can we jam up the wheels of Limbo Dapp with a proposal that can never fail or succeed, but just kind of reverts the whole time, and then we can't list any more proposals? That would be a kind of a deal breaker. So yes, please, someone just double check that. Withdrawal ERC20 proposal. If I remember correctly, this is the this is when weird tokens have ended up on Limbo, and we want to take them out and do things with them. That's why I called it withdrawal errant tokens. So the community will say, okay, well, let's come up with something. Let's say, if some funky burnable token has ended up in Limbo, let's withdraw it and burn it. Or if it's like a silly token, scam token, then let's withdraw it from Limbo and spam all the creators of it with that token being sent 1,000 times to them or something. So anyway, I'm not going to go through all of these proposals, but you get the kind of idea. They implement the proposal. One thing, just you might think of this as a bug, so you aren't required to implement the proposal abstract contract in order to execute it on Limbo Dapp. However, I've provided this abstract proposal contract as a mechanism of safety. So for instance, it has a modifier like not current, and what that means is if your proposal is currently up for vote, this parameterized function will fail if you call it. In other words, you can't put something up for vote and then change the details while the vote is happening, and then people can't take back their vote, and it's just a mess. So I would say that to the community, my message to the community is, do not whitelist any proposals that do not implement this proposal abstract class, because this will protect us from exploits. So it's up to the community to enforce this particular measure. It's not enforced on a contract level. So that's my disclaimer. There won't be any rewards for pointing that out. And on that slightly passive-aggressive sounding note, didn't intend it to come across like that, I think that's everything. I'm obviously looking at the Limbo directory, so it's a bit different to what you'll be seeing, but yes, I think that's all. That was surprisingly enjoyable. I hope it was illuminating to you. Let me know if there's anything that I didn't cover, or I didn't cover enough, or I covered too much, and be nice. Okay. Enjoy auditing, enjoy reading the code, enjoy Limbo, and may you be blessed with millions of flan that are not worthless.